Hi guys, thank you for joining me again on the Social Work Race podcast. Just so you know when this is a hot day. This is going to be, I think, 36 degrees today. I'm in my house, I'm trying to avoid the heat. I'm sweating as I do this particular show. Thank you for joining me anyway, and I'm asking you really to continue to support the show by just sharing, downloading, subscribing. Let everyone know what's happening for social workers, where we can have a real frank discussion about the frontline and all frontline workers, whether you're in healthcare, youth justice. This is a platform for you to grow, to learn, to share. Subscribe. Really appreciate it. And I love doing this show because not only am I learning myself about this game, the more I read, the more I observe, the more I reflect, is the more I grow. And what gives me a high level of satisfaction is that it's really a service for you. So take this and just use it as you need to, for your own development. Today, I wanted to talk to you about possibly my favorite topic in the whole world. And where did this topic come from? It come from when I was studying social work. I did a social work diploma a few years back, and it was with an awesome teacher, Charmaine. I don't want to give her surname because she might not want that, but yeah, Charmaine, one of the greatest teachers of all time. She introduced me to the topic of social influence and conformity, and it just opened my eyes so much to things that I wasn't even aware of. You know, being someone who I like to think that I'm quite aware of what's going on with me personally and with others, I like to always think ahead and be, assessing what are people thinking and why are they doing it. This blew my mind, because it allowed me to. It was a set of goggles, that allowed me to see more clearly about the world that I live in. And this is an important topic, and I was thinking, how deep do I want to go with this? Being one of my favorite, if not my favorite topics, how far do I want to go with this? So in this particular session, in this session, I want to look at this topic in the light of, or in the context of, for example, professionals meetings and the social influence and the conformity that takes place, and really a reflection for us to look at our self-awareness, our emotional intelligence, all of that when we are around other professionals. So just to put it in context, when we're having, for example, strategy meetings or professionals meetings, core group meetings, network meetings, these meetings they involve professionals from various institutions, health, police, other departments in social care, housing, and sometimes you'll have meetings where they're complex, for example, complex strategy meetings where you've got 2 or 3 schools involved. I remember being in one that had 5 schools involved, a number of officers in charge from the police, housing, and I think collectively, I'll give you an example of a case. I'll wait for that. I'll give you that later. So I've been involved in complex meetings like that. And you can hear the people that know their stuff and are intentional, and those who are being swayed. And we're all professionals. We are all professionals here, but some characters can really sway opinion. So this is a really, really important session for those who are new in the game or those who are just becoming aware of what it's about. So I want to talk about compliance and the pressure in professionals meetings to follow suit. Yeah, I can admit that that's been me. Before I was a social worker, I remember feeling some pressures because I wasn't trained in that platform for voicing, right? And these were the days before COVID, so it was all live, where parents were there, all the professionals were in one room. So let's have a look at compliance, conformity, and social influence. Let's define it first. Conformity is a type of social influence involving a change in belief or behavior in order to fit in with the group. This change is in response to real, so it could be physical, the physical presence of others, or imagined, which views or perspectives. So that what's in your head, involving the pressure from social norms or expectations of a group, or the group pressure. This is real. So as you hear and listen to this, I want you to reflect simultaneously on how you conduct yourself or how you see others. All right. Conformity can also be defined as yielding to group pressures, and group pressure may take different forms. For example, bullying, persuasion, teasing, criticism. It can come through charisma. You know, you listen to one particular person who's got a great voice, and you're like, yeah, it's true. Actually, is that your belief? Is that your thing? You know, conformity can also be known as majority influence. So you can see where this is going now, because this is something that all professionals, especially social workers, have to consider. I can't say especially social workers, anyone who's a professional, we all have to consider how much we may or may not be influenced. So we're really becoming emotionally aware of what we are doing in that moment. Yeah. So going back to the story I was going to tell you about, I remember there was a family that I've worked with, and they were, I don't know how much I'm going to go into it. So they're a family where there's been chaos for years for all the children, and there's two young children that were really creating a real problem in the community and at home. But I know there was a lot of love. However, people who do not understand, and this is speaking to other professionals. Other professionals do not necessarily understand the law or the constraints that social workers have to work with. So, for example, in this particular case, this is a great example. Professionals were saying, and they were very articulate and very emotive. We have to take these kids out of the family and put them in a therapeutic environment so that they have every chance of developing or living within the traumas that they are. Okay, this is what was said, and that's a very articulate way of putting it. And for a social worker, we already understand we can't just take children out of the home, because that's not what we do. Although many people believe that, we don't just do that. So myself and my manager were on the same page. What will then taking them out of the home do in reality? So there isn't an immediate threat, but professionals are thinking, we think that this family is so dysfunctional that we should have these children taken out of the home. They haven't thought though, or understood the impact of separation trauma and the impact it has on a child's life. Plus the outcomes for children who go into care. They are very, it's a very somber read of the statistics. So you have to understand, like, some professionals feel that just whipping a child out of a home is a solution, whereas a social worker will consider, is that the best option, and what will it achieve? So we already knew, and we already spoke to the children, it won't achieve anything. They will go straight back home, they will go missing, and they will go deeper into the lifestyles that they'll be given more freedom in the care system to achieve. And so it will result in what we believe is more destruction. So it was better felt that we work with the family. However, professionals felt, and believe me, this was multiple meetings, a lot of shouting was involved. What are social services doing? This has happened to me so many times before. What is the social worker doing for this family? Why are the children still in the home? So here I am, I'm saying, well, look, let's be honest here. We know that we will achieve nothing. In fact, things will get worse. But you feel you have the solution. Now listen, they have their opinion, they're entitled to it, but social workers generally understand how it all plays out, and we have to consider a lot more before we even bring it to court. We understood also that they didn't meet the threshold for care, but for other professionals, they don't get that. So what am I saying here? I'm saying that everybody else apart from myself and my manager, so it was 2 of us versus about 8 others, on a regular basis saying, what are we doing to safeguard this family and to bring them into a better place? And if we can't do it, and it's been this long, we should take the children out. We're saying the opposite. We have to keep working with the family and exhaust every other option other than taking children out of the home. The pressure was great, but it was interesting because through lengthy and regular discussions with my manager, we put ourselves on the same page, understanding the reality of these choices, and we stood our ground. I want you to get this. We stood our ground, and that's important to know, because we do the assessments and we do the evaluations, and we have to preempt. We have to preempt risk. We have to map out realistic and contextualized safety plans. And sometimes taking children out of the home is not the best thing. It's not the best thing for every child. So in that situation, we could have bowed to the pressure, but we didn't. There were some improvements with the family, but we have to accept that some families will always be in the system. That's just the way it is sometimes. What we can't do is we can't bow to the pressure of others and push for things and outcomes for the family that aren't really realistic or fair. And that's the power of influence sometimes, is that we could, when we're making our vote, in these strategy discussions, sometimes there is a vote for it to go a certain way, and 4 or 5 people who sound really well educated or sound like they've got all the experience in the world or have that charisma and that influence, they may vote to do something that you really don't believe in. So what do you do in that situation as a professional? Do you just go with the majority? And that's what social influence is about. We have to be really, really careful with it. I want to just read to you a couple of explanations of the types of conformity out there and the meaning behind them, right? This is really powerful. And this is, like I said, this is stuff I love because it helps me understand what people do and why they're doing it, right? You've got normative conformity, which is yielding to group pressure because a person wants to fit in with the group. Yeah. Or they're conforming because the person is scared of being rejected by the group. You're scared of someone gossiping about you afterwards, so you do what the group wants to do. You say what they want you to say, or you say what they're saying so that you can fit in. This type of conformity usually involves compliance, where a person publicly accepts the views of the group but privately rejects them. Wow, that's normative conformity. So we're acting, right? And do you think that professionals don't do that? That's real. Professionals will act, smile, laugh, but inside they hate what they're doing. This is because this is humanity. Let's be real about this. Let's go to informational conformity. Man, I've been dying to do this topic. This usually occurs when a person lacks knowledge and looks to the group for guidance, which is fine up to a point. You need that level of humility. I have had managers that have asked me for advice. That's fine. It's perfectly fine. However, or when a person is ambiguous, they're unclear of the situation and socially compares their behavior with the group. This type of conformity usually involves internalization, where a person accepts the views of the group and adopts them as an individual. So people who are inexperienced will fish for guidance. And that's sometimes where people who are just new into, say, social work or that kind of setting where people give their titles. Please introduce yourself. I'm so-and-so. I've got 4 degrees, or I'm a doctor, a PhD, or whatever. And that might make you think, oh, actually, let me submit. That's a subconscious thing. Let me submit to the situation. And then, what happens if they and others will voice strongly, this is what we think we should do. This is about neglect. Let's vote for neglect. And you think, actually, there's no neglect here. You won't, because you don't feel qualified within yourself to go against the common view. You've got identification. This occurs when the individual accepts influence because they want to establish or maintain a satisfying, self-denying relationship to another person in a group. There's so much here. That's for group membership. And we are a group when we're in these professionals meetings, and we're really supposed to, share views and come to a consensus, but we don't have to agree. We just do not have to agree. You've got compliance. This occurs. Or group acceptance this occurs when an individual accepts influence because they hope to achieve a favorable reaction from another person or group. This is dangerous now. They adopt the induced behavior because they expect to gain specific rewards or approval and avoid specific punishment or to be disapproved by conformity. This is the kind of thing that happens when you remember the Rochdale incident, or there's been cases throughout UK and in history, and this is nothing new, but the most recent, I guess, that we've identified is, and it's going to be extended to all the banking sector as well, the moral values and government, and it's all over the place, isn't it? But, within social care and healthcare, there are people who have the ability, this amazing ability to pull people together to do things that are evil. You can use this. It also happens in religion heavily. Not the evil part necessarily, but religion has been used in this way, and currently. But it's nothing to do with religion. It's just another means to get the same job done. Where you have someone who can pull people together to do something that's quite disturbing, and so there is a systemic abuse of people in a care home. Physical abuse. I remember watching a panorama that I couldn't even watch the whole thing. I was nearly brought to tears, where staff were abusing or extremely and willfully neglectful of people's needs in a care home, which is something I dread. For my dad is never going in a care home. He will have to be looked after because I'm not having that. Because I just don't trust groups, out there apart from people that I know. But the influence, I digress, the influence really is disturbing when something is clearly wrong, but your main motivation is to fit in and gain approval. And so people like that will often employ people who are easily manipulated into a service so that they can join them in their sick ventures. So, this topic is broad for me, and it helped me look at religious structures, social structures. It's all the same. People have a thing against religion. Religion is not the problem. The problem is the people who are leading, okay, and their motivations. That's the issue, because it's not just religion. We see this behavior outside of religion too. And within our social settings, in our professional settings, what I'm really saying to you all is, you need to know yourself. Take some time to reflect on yourself. You are important. You are good enough. Your opinion matters. It may not be agreed. So what? Stick to your guns if you believe in them. And if you are not sure, clarify your thoughts and reflect through your line manager. If you've got a good line manager, then you can talk to them. What do you think about this? And a good line manager like mine, for example, will ask me, and say to me, it's your assessment, but have you considered this? And sometimes I will say, look, on paper, we see a lot of abuse. However, in my assessment, I think that it's been misunderstood. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of professionals say, look, there's a lot of abuse going on here. We've got to do something about this family. And you go in and you assess, you look at the home, you look at their behavior, you've done your assessment, you've asked all the questions, and you just can't see it. And you have to say that. You can't let other professionals read pieces of paper and tell you how bad things are when you've seen it for yourself and it's not as bad as you think. You got to stand by your guns. You got to know yourself, know your family, and be very self-aware about how you're conducting yourself in these settings, and just be aware. How does it sound? You won't always pick it up, but know yourself first, And that's my encouragement to you. One more thing I want to say is, again, please share, please subscribe Tell me what you think of this session. You can email me at thesocialworkrace@gmail.com. Let me know your thoughts. You know I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on TikTok as well. Yeah, and if you have any advice or any topics you want to discuss, you let me know. However, it's a hot day. I'm going to get out there. Go and look after yourselves. Go and get your vitamin D, guys. Take care.